ESPN Speed World. The NHRA, the world's largest motorsport sanctioning body, showcasing speeds in excess of 280 miles an hour and covering the quarter-mile distance in less than 5 seconds.
A Winston Championship drag racing circuit makes 16 stops a year. From its start in February in Pomona, California, to the season-ending Winston Finals, also in Pomona the end of October, the championship trail crisscrosses the United States, plus a stop in Canada. The world's best championship drag racers were last in Reading, Pennsylvania for the 4th annual Castrol GTX Keystone Nationals at Maple Grove Raceway. The race for the top fuel portion of the $1 million season-ending the Winston Championship came even closer as Darrell Gwynn made it to the winner's circle. The final round saw Gwynn cross the finish line ahead of a tire-smoking Dick LaHaye, the defending event champion. The victorious Gwynn narrowed the points lead held by Joe Amato, who was defeated in the semifinal round. The funny car final was the closest in history and a rematch of the recent U.S. Nationals at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Kenny Bernstein used a starting line advantage to reverse the outcome of the Nationals and capture the Keystone crown. McCulloch actually had the quicker elapsed time of 5.34 seconds, but Bernstein parlayed his starting line driving skills and a fine 5:36 elapsed time to take the victory and the series points lead over Mark Oswald. Finally, in Pro Stock, for the 65th time, Bob Glidden won an NHRA national event. Jerry Ekman was the victim at the Keystone Nationals finals, losing by his own hand when he left the starting line too soon, drawing a red light and an automatic disqualification. Glidden ended the event with a commanding points lead as he is seeking an unprecedented 9th Winston Championship. Today, we move to just outside Houston, Texas, near Baytown, at a brand new facility, one that is being already called the best racetrack in the world, and the inaugural Fram Supernationals. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and welcome to Houston Raceway Park. Like everyone else, we had great expectations for this brand new racetrack, and even our wildest dreams have been exceeded. Led by Gene Snow, who in his first round victory over Gary Ormsby displayed the same power that he had in qualifying when he made Houston Raceway Park the world's quickest racetrack with a record-shattering 4.997 second elapsed time. Gene, can you keep up that frantic pace that you set in qualifying?
Well, we'd like to. That 4-second run was great. Maybe we can do it today, too.
Do you have a secret that nobody else knows about?
I wish I did. It's just there like everybody else's.
Well, we'll find out as you go into the second round of competition. We'll be getting to that in just a moment. Before, though, let's join Steve Evans and find out what else is going on here at Houston Raceway Park.
Well, David, other than Gene Snow's 4-second elapsed time record, the biggest headline to come out of qualifying has to be the Bob Glidden team. With a comfortable lead in the Winston Championship chase, they went to their brand new probe automobile. The first time in competition, and guess what? A new national record. Backed up official, 7.27 seconds. So the Pro Stock competition now knows that Glidden is going to be tougher than ever, not only for the rest of 88, but for 89 as well. Now, in top fuel, with Gene Snow setting that blistering 4-second pace, it forced everyone to twist the screws a little tighter than usual. For one driver, Frank Cook, they may have been a bit too tight. A longtime funny car competitor, he made his NHRA top fuel debut, an auspicious one. The connecting rods came out of the engine in the final qualifying run. A horrendous fire ensued, and it was Cook sliding in his own oil, fortunately, to a safe stop. Well, Frank Cook, who has spent most of his natural life in funny cars, embarking on a top fuel dragster career, as we all saw a horrific fire. And Frank, I'm sure when that car made that immediate turn, you knew something had gone wrong.
Steve, I knew something was wrong. I never had any idea we kicked the rods out of it so early. But it got in the oil and it went all over the place, and I knew we had big problems.
Well, the plus side of being in a dragster like this with the engine behind you, so is the fire.
Yeah, you know, plus NHRA, they're right on top of things. I'm just sorry I messed the track up for everybody here.
I'll clean it up.
Okay.
Okay, in the funny car category, again, some record news. Well, semi-official. Ed McCulloch in qualifying. 5.25, the quickest run in the history of NHRA drag racing. He has yet to back that up. And as we all know, qualifying and race day are two different things. Race day earlier today in round 1 of funny car competition, Don the Snake Prudhomme took control of this event at 5.30 seconds with the wheels in the air. Well, Don Prudhomme knows he won. He just doesn't know how quickly. A 5:30.
Yeah, well, I felt like it had it in it all through the race. You know, we've been playing around a lot with it, and it was one heck of a run, and, you know, we just got to keep it up, Steve.
You know, there's a lot of secrecy going on. There's 2-speed transmissions in the car, but is there any gears in the transmission?
Well, we're really not telling yet, to be honest with you, because we're kind of jumping back and forth. We've had high gear in the car, but we've also had a 2-speed in it, too, so we're playing around. We're not quite ready to let them know what we're doing.
Great job.
Thank you.
As Bob Glidden's crew prepares the probe for the second round of Pro Stock competition, there's one crew across the way who are loading up and headed out of the racetrack. Kenny Bernstein, leading the Winston Points Championship in funny car, lost in round number 1. Like Prudhomme, he had the wheels in the air, only his car was uncontrollable. John Force got there first. Well, the video pretty well tells the story for Kenny Bernstein. Kenny, the front end, just straight up.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just what I was doing at Maple Grove, and the difference was this time it was going left. It wasn't going straight, and just kept going up. It just too much, and, you know, that's the way it goes.
Kenny Bernstein with a wheel stand, out early. And David, with Bernstein out, that really makes the Winston points chase interesting.
Steve, you're absolutely right, and we'll talk more about that points chase when we get to round number 2 of Funny Car Eliminator in a few moments. But now, it is time for the second round of Top Fuel. It is Joe Amato against Dick LaHaye.
Is Joe Amato ever pumped up, Dave? And he has good reason to be. In round number 1, earlier today, 5 seconds flat. Top speed of the event, 287 miles per hour. He could back up both of those 4 records if he could run a 498 here, and that was an untried car when it came here, brand new.
This new car brings Joe Amato up to the leading edge of drag racing technology, bringing the wheelbase out to 300 inches. It is a super long car. He has been ultimately successful with his previous vehicle, but feels here in the latter stages of the season, he needs the advantage of the technology of the long car.
In fact, it's so long, Dave, we have to go to a wider shot just to get the whole car in the picture. We talked, David, earlier about the funny car point situation being very, very tight. Well, there's certainly some competition here as far as Top Fuel is concerned as well between Joe Amato and Darrell Gwynn to come in this round.
Amato coming into this race had a few 100-point lead over Darrell Gwynn. He's got the performance advantage. His wife Jerry backing him up after the burnout. He is seeking the spot on the racetrack that will provide him the ultimate in traction. He's got that 5-second flat elapsed time. If he can back it up, he also gets some bonus points.
Dick LaHaye, the defending Winston champion. Who can ever forget the 1987 season when it came down to the final race, the Winston Finals between LaHaye and Joe Amato. Dick LaHaye, a professional racer, has been for 2 decades out of Lansing, Michigan. Kim LaHaye, his daughter, the crew chief on the car.
Joe Amato comes from Old Forge, Pennsylvania. He was the Winston champion back in 1984 and wants to take home his 2nd title this season.
So you're looking at a driver in the near lane, the long, reddish car, who could set both ends of the national record with just the right kind of elapsed time and speed.
Amato and LaHaye. A good start for both drivers, and problems for Dick LaHaye. It appears something coming out of the engine, and Joe Amato goes through to a 5.18 second, 270-mile-an-hour run. No record back up there for Dick LaHaye. He oiled down the racetrack, an unusual occurrence for the Miller High Life driver. The 1988 NHRA Fram Supernationals is being brought to you by Fram Bendix Autolite, which are all quality products of Allied Automotive, and by Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference. And by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Meanwhile, back on the starting line, Eddie Hill is taking off his helmet. He's got to wait a couple of minutes while the cleanup continues on the racetrack here at Houston Raceway Park. We're in John Force's pit area as he got a tough road in eliminations. We saw him in the first round beat Kenny Bernstein. This round, he races Don Prudhomme. Now let's go to Steve with Joe Amato.
5:18.270.
Well, Steve, we were real worried about the lanes. We had to take a little bit of power out of it. You know, this track is treacherous out there. But, you know, Timmy and the guys are just trying to we're walking on eggs. You know, all they kept doing all day was oiling the track, so really making it tough.
One thing we've noticed during qualifying, in the morning, good times. In the afternoon, not so good.
Well, the air gets worse, and it's hard to catch up with the air, and you don't want to overpower the track. So we're just trying to win round by round and hope Darrell can match us.
This racetrack has taken quite a beating with a considerable amount of oil being dumped on it, making lane choice even more important. In this race between Eddie Hill and Darrell Gwynn, Hill has the coveted choice of lanes.
And he earned lane choice by recording a quicker elapsed time in the previous round than did his opponent Darrell Gwynn. A capacity crowd here for the first NHRA national event at this brand new Houston Raceway Park. And of course, they're wondering if Darrell Gwynn indeed can keep pace with Joe Amato. He just saw Amato get the win light and took up another 200 points. Darrell with a nice little wave to the crowd. He does that sometimes, Mac. He does it relaxes him.
Steve, it may relax him a little bit, but he's got to be concerned about his competitor, Eddie Hill. Hill, of course, is the story of this race. On Saturday, he was ready to pull out. He had exploded 3 engines in a row in qualifying, came back in the final qualifying effort with borrowed parts, and he put that car in the number 3 qualifying spot with a 5:03 elapsed time.
Well, that yellow machine of Eddie Hill's from Wichita Falls, Texas, as you said in qualifying, resembled an artillery piece more than it did a top fuel dragster. Darrell Gwynn, he has not been able to run the 499s and the 5.0s, but he seems to have a little bit of luck on his side in that Budweiser dragster. He's going to need it right now because he's in a lane that may be less than perfect.
Hill had the choice of lanes. He selected the lane nearest our cameras. His Super Shop Special and Darrell Gwynn's dragster very similar on the outside, but there's a lot of difference in the technology. And Hill easily pulls away from Gwynn, 5.05 seconds. His speed, 277 miles an hour. An incredible string of times thus far. The 5:03 on his last qualifying effort. He had a 5:04 in the first round. And now as we watch again, you see Hill in the near lane just drive away from Darrell Gwynn with a 5.05 second elapsed time. Hill, of course, is one of the 2 drivers that has been in the 4-second range. He did that earlier this season. Now let's go to the far end, and Steve.
Aren't you glad you didn't go home yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely glad I didn't go home.
5:05.
05, man, it's pretty consistent, huh?
I'll say an 03, an 04, and 05.
Wow, not bad. Let's see what the snowman does. Now see if we get lane choice.
Boy, lane choice is critical now.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it holds up. It's going to take a good run to top that, huh?
Okay, here's Ursi and the crew. Indeed it will. Let's go back to the starting line.
Steve, as Ursi Hill, along with Fuzzy Carter, the crew chief, and his wife, Jana, come up to congratulate Eddie Hill on the starting line. No, you're not seeing double. This is the second car out of the Miller High Life racing team of Larry Minor. This one driven by Frank Hawley. He is racing against the snowman, Gene Snow, and this is the man that Eddie Hill is referring to. He has got the national record at 4.99 seconds, the quickest driver on this racetrack thus far.
And he also has lane choice, which according to Eddie Hill is critical. In the far lane, Frank Hawley, the Larry Minor owned car. Now there is Larry Minor himself making some adjustments in the cockpit to the fuel system. He brought Frank Hawley out of retirement and has an outfield run the entire NHRA circuit next year.
Gene Snow, a favorite of these Texans. He hails from Fort Worth, has been in this sport for well over 20 years, driving both funny cars and now this most innovative top fuel dragster that holds the record at a 4.99. Frank Hawley is quick, though. He ran 5.06 in qualifying. Snow with a choice of lanes, sitting in the lane nearest the camera. Both drivers staging very carefully. And Gene Snow, by more than a car length, dominates Frank Hawley with a 5.10 second elapsed time, 269 miles an hour. Snow's time just a bit slower than the first round and also his qualifying run, but as Joe Amato told Steve Evans a bit earlier, it is due to the weather. The humidity is increasing, the temperature coming up just a bit, and the car's not making the horsepower they did earlier. But he did make enough power to easily outdistance Frank Hawley. That victory puts Gene Snow into the semifinals. Steve?
Well, Gene, who would ever have thought that you could lose lane choice with a 5.10? You have.
Oh, I don't mind that too bad. I can't believe that, though. I thought he ran better than that.
No, it didn't. You really think the track is going to come around? It's seen so much oil.
Well, I don't know. Darrell got down through there with a 520. You know, whatever. We don't have any choice to do the best we can.
You wish you'd have put a little more in it?
Oh, I twisted every dial just about. There's not a whole lot left.
Okay, Gene Snow goes to the semis against Eddie Hill.
Snow heads back to the pit area to get his car ready for that race against Eddie Hill. Meantime, over in the funny car pit area, they're working on Don Prudhomme's race car. The question here is, does he have a high gear only, or is he using a transmission? Maybe we'll find out when we come back to the Fram Supernationals. Park in the inaugural Fram Supernationals, and as Steve told us earlier, an overflow crowd estimated at some 40,000 people. Now let's go to the pit. Steve Evans is with Dick LaHaye.
You know, no one can remember the last time Dick LaHaye oiled down a racetrack. Can you?
No, I can't, to be truthful with you. I can't ever remember doing it in an NHRA national event. And I mean, I feel bad about it for the people that have to run behind me because I have to do it so many times in somebody else's oil, you know?
And it wasn't an engine.
No, it wasn't. It destroyed the rear end housing about a second and a half into the run. And it's just one of those things. I guess it was time for one of those to fail. It's the next weak link in the line.
Just added to the list of ways to lose.
Oh, yes, that's just one of the 10,000.
And Steve, I think Dick LaHaye probably feels he has experienced every one of those 10,000 this season. The reigning champion not having the best season of his career. On the racetrack now, Connie Coletta in the near lane against Richard Holcomb in the far lane. Coletta, a bit of a surprise. He qualified extremely well, turning a 5.06 seconds as he begins to sort out the problems on a new car that he debuted a couple of races ago.
And talk about a man having his best event ever. That has got to be Connie's opponent in the far lane, Richard Holcomb, at 5:15, and he put away Shirley Muldowney in round number 1. I guarantee you, Connie Coletta has got more money in the petty cash drawer at his flying service than Richard Holcomb's net worth. But here, performance-wise, they are heads up.
Holcomb hails out of Stockbridge, Georgia. He's been in drag racing a long time, and as Steve just said, this is the best showing of his career. Connie Coletta from Ypsilanti, Michigan, owns a flying service. And when we're talking about a flying service, not just a couple of small airplanes, we're talking about DC-8s and even bigger.
That's right. Coletta in the near lane, Holcomb in the far lane, Clayton Harris kind of conferring with his driver, helping him stage. It's a very delicate process, getting those wheels perfectly positioned in the beams. That turns on the staging lights on the Christmas tree. The starter activates the switch. From the time the starter buster couch pushes that button, it's a half a second till the yellow light, 4/10 yellow to green.
And both drivers get the green light and smoke off the tires of Richard Holcomb, indicating the car lost traction. And Connie Coletta with a 5.18 second elapsed time, 272 mile an hour charge, advances into the semifinals. What a disappointment it's got to be for Richard Holcomb. He got a bit of a starting line advantage over Connie Coletta, but then the car lost traction, the smoke coming off those tires indicating they are really spinning, the ultimate in burning rubber. And Richard Holcomb goes out of competition. That sets up our semifinals. Connie Coletta against Joe Amato. Amato having the choice of lanes, and the race that all Texas has been waiting to see, Eddie Hill against Gene Snow, with Hill holding the choice of lanes. Steve?
You know, suddenly you've gone into the O's in qualifying and now teens. What happened to kind of bring you around?
Well, we put the high gear in it. This is a new car, and ever since we brought it out at Indy, I've had nothing but clutch trouble trying to get the tires to stop spinning. And I guess the new race car just wanted this high gear system.
Fun to start getting win lights again.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Connie Coletta, he'll put a few pistons in it and be back for the semis.
Coletta had a 5:15 elapsed time. That's not good enough for lane choice over Joe Amato when they come up in the semifinals of Top Fuel. Right now, though, it is round number 2 of Pro Stock Racing and the classic Ford versus Chevrolet battle. The new record holder, Bob Glidden, at the wheel of his Motorcraft Probe against the Levi Garrett Beretta of Rare and Morrison with Bruce Allen driving.
And David, everybody is talking about the Probe. It looks like a funny car in this head-on shot. And that's not because Glidden has modified the car. You can't according to the rules. That's the way a Probe comes from the Ford factory. It has got to be wind tunnel friendly.
Bruce Allen 2 times this season. He has driven that Beretta into the winner's circle. Out of Arlington, Texas, he won the Cajun Nationals and the Gator National.
Now, let's be honest about it. Nobody is going to steal the Winston Championship this year from that man, Bob Glidden, especially now with the new Probe race car. No superchargers here, no nitromethane. You're talking 118 octane racing gasoline, maximum 500 cubic inches, 2,350 pounds, and two great big 4-barrel carburetors.
And this is exactly what these fans wanted to see, the factory matchup of Ford versus Chevrolet. Glidden in the near lane, Bruce Allen in the far lane.
It is Glidden away first by 200ths of a second, the wheels high in the air.
His son Rusty urging him on to victory, and it is another round win for Bob Glidden. His elapsed time, 7.40 seconds. His speed, 186 miles an hour. These carbureted cars suffer more with atmosphere changes than do the nitromethane burning cars in Top Fuel and Funny Car. But it is equal for both drivers as far as the air goes. And in this case, the Ford of Bob Glidden made the horsepower necessary to drive away from Bruce Allen and advance into the semifinals of Pro Stock Eliminator. The margin of victory, 1 car length.
And back in the Top Fuel pitch, the crew working on Joe Amato's car, tending to the clutch, which these days is every bit, if not a little more important than the engine itself. We'll be back to the Fram Supernationals. Absolutely filled to capacity as the Texans celebrate the birth of a new facility, Houston Raceway Park. Built by Texans, the Don and Carl Gay families, and the Angel Brothers. They are the partners in this racetrack. The Angel Brothers, Dave McClellan, are paving contractors, and what a drag strip they have laid down. Asphalt with a 400-foot-long concrete launch pad.
And that launch pad has propelled this track to the record-shattering times that we have seen in qualifying and in Pro Stock. These guys have got a new mark to shoot at. It is a 7.27-second record held now by Bob Glidden. In the far lane of the track, Butch Leal driving his Pontiac. Here in the near lane, it is Tony Christian at the wheel of the Chevrolet Beretta.
And of course, Butch Leal takes great pride and has made a lot of headlines with his starting prowess. Always getting away first. Well, almost always. If there's one man that can gate him, it is Tony Christian, because he has devoted himself to doing just that.
Butch Leal and his Delco Batteries Pontiac started off the season in grand style. He won the opening race of the year at the Winter Nationals in Pomona, California. Since then, though, he has been shut out of the winner's circle. Leal in the far lane. Tony Christian at the wheel of the A&B Automotive Beretta in the near lane has won 2 races this year, the Mid-South Nationals and the North Star National.
Let's see who wins the war off of the starting line. They're staged and ready. It is Butch Leal away first.
But Leal may be having some problems as Tony Christian is a long ways ahead. And Christian goes into the semifinals. His time, 7.44 seconds. His speed over 186 miles an hour. And back on the starting line, our next pair continues their burnout procedure. In the near lane is Larry Morgan at the wheel of an Oldsmobile he debuted earlier this year. Now is beginning to reap the benefits of lots of hard work as he qualified exceptionally well. Let's go to the far end, and Steve.
Here's Bob Glidden trying to run over Tony Christian.
And I'll see you later.
Oh, boy, you're in the mid-740s. You can run with him.
And if I can get by Warren, he's going to get another one of those thumpings.
Steve, Tony Christian, and Bob Glidden may be our next stars of WrestleMania. They're in the semifinals of Pro Stock. On the starting line is Frank Sanchez, and if there was ever a surprise driver at this race, Sanchez is it. He qualified with a 7:29 elapsed time.
One of the few drivers ever to get into the 720s. As you said, he's up against Larry Morgan, the Castrol GTX Oldsmobile, having one of his better outings since building that car. And with lane choice was Morgan. He has taken the near lane. That's been a pretty unanimous choice.
Sanchez appears to have the advantage at the starting line. And in the lane that some drivers consider to be a little bit lacking, Frank Sanchez records a 7.44 second ET at a speed of over 185 miles an hour. In Gene Snow's pit area, the work is proceeding, getting his car ready for that ultimate race against Eddie Hill. That'll be coming up a little bit later at the Fram Supernationals. Texas at the inaugural Fram Supernationals at Houston Raceway Park. I'm Dave McClellan along with Steve Evans, and we're enjoying, just like these fans, some of the greatest racing we've seen. Let's go to Steve with Frank Sanchez.
A fine 744, Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you.
A nice hole shot, I might add.
Thanks again. I really don't know what to say. We've been having so many problems with that right lane. I was really surprised I was able to get down there as well as we did.
Did you leave any easier maybe than you normally would, less RPM, anything like that?
Well, actually, I didn't. I've been leaving the same way we've been leaving all day. We didn't want to change anything. We've been running pretty good all weekend, and we wanted to keep it that way.
One of your best weekends ever, as I can remember.
Oh, that's the truth.
Keep it going.
Thank you very much.
Frank Sanchez into the semifinals with a fine 7:44 elapsed time on the starting line. Our next two cars in this second round of Pro Stock Eliminator. The AC Delco Oldsmobile. This is Warren Johnson. He was the #2 qualifier. Racing against him, the Chevy Beretta of Joe Lapone Jr.
Now, you remember what Tony Christian said in the interview right after Glidden tried to run over him? He said, if I can get by Warren. Christian had already declared Warren Johnson the winner over Joe Lapone. Do you think so, David?
If you put it on the basis of previous elapsed times, you'd have to go with Warren Johnson. But Joe Lapone at the wheel of the Easy Wider Special is not to be counted out. He has got some great starting line reaction times. Warren Johnson, his #2 qualifying time was a 7.28 second run. For a brief period of time, he held the national record that was taken away from him by Bob Glidden in the Ford.
You just saw Warren Johnson's son Kirk kneel down to watch those rear tires, and he likes what he sees. They live right together.
Warren Johnson holds on to that lead by a car length. WJ into the semifinals, and look at the time. 7.37 seconds at 187 miles an hour, the quickest run of this round. As we look again, you see Johnson and Lapone leave the starting line almost together. Then instantly, the power of the Oldsmobile begins to pull ahead. And as they're near the finish line, Warren Johnson holds on to that car length lead he built up in the middle of the course and defeats Joe Lapone. That victory by WJ sets up the semifinals, where he will be racing against Tony Christian and holding lane choice with that 7:37, the quickest time of eliminations. The other pair finds Bob Glidden against the surprising Frank Sanchez. Glidden holding lane choice in that race. Steve?
Okay, for Warren Johnson, low elapsed time of the round at a 7:37.
Well, a 37 is awful good considering conditions, but the other cars are awful close, too.
Is it spinning the tires kind of all the way down the racetrack?
Both lanes are excessively loose. That's correct.
Well, it could come around. These things have a way of changing.
No doubt about it. They've changed for the worse.
Well, there's a cool breeze starting to blow now. We may see the elapsed time start to drop pretty dramatically.
Steve, that cool air will certainly help the Pro Stock racers, but it also provides a big advantage to the nitro-burning cars in Top Fuel and Funny Car. Here in Eddie Hill's pit area, you see the crew at work on this engine, and what a story about Eddie Hill. Making the program on his final qualifying effort, he has had very consistent elapsed times, a 5:03, a 5:04, and a 5:05, with no apparent problems in the race car. On the starting line, it is time for round #2 of Funny Car Eliminator. Here is the Oldsmobile, owned by Joe Pisano and driven by Mike Dunn.
And it is, Dave, the fastest funny car in NHRA drag racing history, the only NHRA car to ever top 280 miles per hour. And doesn't this man, Jerry Caminito, know the credentials of his opponent? Caminito struggled in qualifying, just did make the cut in the 16th position with what a beautiful car called Blue Thunder.
Caminito is one of those racers that does not follow the circuit on a full-time basis. He holds a job during the week in the contracting business, but yet as an independent is certainly competitive, as is seen here in his second round appearance against Mike Dunn. A tribute to his tenacity and to his dedication to the sport. Jerry Caminito from Brooklyn, New York.
Well, Mike Dunn, David, also holds down a full-time job as a machinist for a crankshaft company in Southern California. He has won the U.S. Nationals, he won the Golden Gate Nationals, but earlier today, in his victory over Tony McCallum, an incredible thing happened to the rookie in the near lane. In his first ever side-by-side confrontation, the ink still wet on his NHRA competition license. Watch the car in the near lane. He was giving Mike Dunn everything he had until a blower explosion.
And McCollum kept the car under control with the body gone, a bit of a fire out of the engine, but McCollum exposed to the atmosphere, certainly not in hazard of getting burnt seriously. As the car is rolling to a stop, Tony McCollum steps out and gets away from that race car. What a wild ride for the rookie. McCollum, in his race against Mike Dunn in the first round, was certainly giving Dunn everything he could ask for when the engine let go.
Now, that body turning to confetti is the best thing that could have happened for Tony. The last thing you need is to be draped with flaming fiberglass in a situation like this.
Steve, I'm sure Tony McCollum never figured he'd end this race like this without a body on that race car and fire coming out of the back of the engine. Earlier, when Tony got out of the car, Steve was with him.
Tony, you okay?
Yeah.
You did a good job of controlling that car, my friend, for your first time.
Thank you. Gave it the best I could. Surprise.
Indeed.
I'll bet it was a surprise for Tony McCollum. He had a lead on Mike Dunn, who's now in the near lane, and that engine explosion put him out of competition, but he was absolutely unhurt. The Blue Thunder car of Jerry Caminito in the far lane against Mike Dunn.
Jerry Caminito has to run his car easy. He can't afford all the spare parts. Mike Dunn, well, his car under Joe Paisano manufactures rods and pistons. They've got an 18-wheeler full of them. They can run it all out.
And he is all out at this moment. Mike Dunn heads to the finish line with a big victory. His elapsed time, 5.47 seconds. His speed, 263 miles an hour. So Mike Dunn now goes into the semifinals of Funny Car Eliminator. Back in the pit area, it is Connie Coletta's Top Fuel dragster that is getting the between rounds treatment. The rod and piston being reinstalled by the crewman. It is beyond comprehension how quick these guys can work. They can completely disassemble a racing engine, rebuild it, and have it back on the starting line in just a matter of minutes, capable of running over 285 miles an hour. Steve?
Well, Mike Dunn sails into the semifinals, Mike, with a 5:47. Everything okay?
Yeah, Steve, it's just, a little soft. We don't want to overpower the track, and we'll probably have to step her up a little bit. We don't want to get too carried away, though. It needs to run about a tenth better, but we're happy with that run.
And as the rounds go by, the right lane's going to get better. Who's ever over there is going to be tougher.
Yeah, that's for sure. If they don't oil down that lane anymore, it will definitely get better. So the lanes will be more even. It'll be a much better race. We didn't want to get too crazy after because that lane was pretty bad. So we, we put a late lockup on and everything. That's why the ET was a little off. So we'll step on it a little bit next round.
Some drivers aren't saying. Dom Perdon, for example. Is this a high gear car or a two-speed car?
No, we couldn't pull high gear. The crank would be on the ground 100 feet out. Are you kidding me?
Mike Dunn at least admitting to the limitations of his race car. He goes into the semifinals of Funny Car at the Fram Supernationals.
Their second round of competition here at the Fram Supernationals. I'm Steve Evans along with Dave McClellan. You're looking at the Miller High Life Oldsmobile body car of Ed McCulloch, the U.S. Nationals champion this year, his second victory of the season.
Out of the Century Tack Engages sponsorship comes the Oldsmobile-bodied car of Bruce Larson. And if any driver could be considered a surprise this season, it is Larson. He won the Cajun Nationals in Baton Rouge, has finished runner-up twice this year, and Larson came into his own after over 2 decades in this sport when he teamed up with Joe Amato and got the technical expertise of Amato's crew chief Tim Richards.
Well, the crafty old ace, Ed McCulloch, he's another one of those drivers playing games with us about the transmission. I asked him point blank, is there a transmission in the car? He says, you know what they look like? Of course there is. See, it's right there. I says, I want to know if it's just a spacer between the engine and the reverser. He just laughed and walked off.
Didn't admit whether there were any gears in it or not.
But, Mike Dunn said if they ran a high gear only and put the crank on the racetrack, it does force the engines to work very, very hard. But that's why it is working and whittling away at the elapsed time. When they work hard, they burn more nitro. McCulloch will tell you the more nitro they burn, the more horsepower they make.
Bruce Larson, coming out of a career that was primarily centered on match racing over the last couple of seasons, has jumped right into the thick of this very, very difficult competition. How difficult is it? He is racing against Ed McCulloch, and McCulloch has low elapsed time, the quickest time ever at 5.25 seconds.
Can McCulloch back it up for a national record? No. McCulloch blazes the tires. Bruce Larson, a nice 5:45 at 256 miles per hour. The far lane is definitely back. But what about the near lane, Dave? McCulloch smoked the tires.
Well, if we look again in replay, you can see exactly what happened. The two cars got almost an identical start. Bruce Larson in the far lane, McCulloch in the near lane. McCulloch begins to pull ahead very quickly and then loses traction. This was the lane that everyone had counted on to be able to glue the race car to the ground. You heard Mike Dunn talking about it. Now Ed McCulloch smokes the tires and is out of competition. The quickest funny car on this racetrack, the quickest funny car anywhere in the world.
Here is Don the Snake Prudhomme. The body going down. You just saw his opponent, John Force, burning out in that far lane. Bruce Larson's elapsed time has got to give Force some confidence. Now, let's talk a moment about these lock-up clutches. You have to be very careful here. It's a 400-foot pad. When you make the transition from the asphalt to the concrete, or vice versa, really, concrete to asphalt, you don't want one of your clutch stages to hit right there.
In McCulloch's case, his tires were smoking long before he got off the concrete pad, so he just flat overpowered the racetrack. Prudhomme is the current national record holder at a 5.30 seconds. They raise the body every time after a burnout on John Force's Castrol GTX Oldsmobile. The reason? To make some changes in the ignition system. It was a development by his crew chief, Austin Coyle, to help prevent supercharger explosions that were occurring on the burnout.
John Force on the starting line to try what they call the dry burnout. And Austin Coyle, crew chief, will like what he saw. John Force may not have to use those trick brakes on the car to maintain traction. He hooked up on the dry.
Don Prudhomme coming into this race qualified in the number 6 spot with a 5:38. John Force, of course, was the number 10 qualifier and upset Kenny Bernstein, as we saw earlier in the show, in that first round race.
Both Prudhomme and John Force have won 2 NHRA national events this year and are very strong in the top 10. Will have a high finish and a pretty good slice of Winston's $1 million season in bonuses.
All the work by the crew is completed now. It rests on the shoulders of the drivers as they approach the starting line, concentrating on trying to get an advantage over their competitor. The lanes are timed separately. The timers do not start until the cars leave the line, and they are identical in their reaction time to the green light. And Prudhomme, by a half a car length in one of the closest races of the day, prevails with a 5.40 second elapsed time. His speed, 258 miles an hour. This is what an identical start looks like. Both drivers had the same reaction time to the green light on the Christmas tree. Instantly, though, Prudhomme pulled ahead. He was able to maintain that lead as they passed the halfway point on the racetrack. And as they neared the finish line, a little puff of smoke coming out of the left bank of the engine, but Prudhomme wins it.
Snake, a sensational race. Your 540 won it over his 543.
Yeah, well, I knew it was close all the way. We took a little bit out of it, and hopefully it'll run a little better next round.
Were you sure you had one?
No, I really didn't know. We just backed it up. You know, the track with all the problems they're having with the oil down, so we backed it up, and we'll just have to stand on a little bit more next time.
Earlier in round 1, you were carrying the front wheels, a little frightening. What did you do to settle that down?
Well, we calmed the clutch down, but you never know how much to take out, Steve, and, you know, I'm just trying to get it down the course right now. You know, we did not leave it alone. Maybe we should have, but, you know, those are all guesses that you take when you're in the pits.
Thanks for a thrilling race.
Thank you.
Don Prudhomme guessed right. He beat John Force. We'll be back in a moment.
Way Park. Crew chief Gary Slusher, car owner Joe Paisano prepared Mike Dunn's mount for their semifinal battle against Don the Snake Prudhomme. And they just got some bad news. Prudhomme's 540 will give the 4-time Winston champion lane choice. Dunn needs every break now he can get.
On the starting line, Mark Oswald has got a brand new body on that Motorcraft entry of Candies and Hughes. This is the Ford Probe. And Steve, if you thought Bob Glidden's car looked like a funny car, this is what one looks like.
It is swoopy, but so then is the Dodge Daytona of Johnny West, a Hawaiian car owned by Roland Leon. And that car is a much tougher opponent now than it was earlier in the year. West qualified at a 5:43, their best effort in a long time. You know, Dave, I never can recall a funny car team qualifying with one body, as the Candies and Hughes team did earlier in the weekend with a Thunderbird body, and then going to a different body configuration. Unless, of course, they burned or blew one up. They did all of this on purpose.
Well, the Thunderbird body worked well in qualifying. It put him in the number 3 spot. Oswald with a 5.35 second elapsed time. Johnny West at the wheel of Roland Leong's Hawaiian Punch Special is certainly competitive from his number 7 qualifying spot. But the interesting thing to note is that Mark Oswald can make a big move in the Winston points chase. Kenny Bernstein, the points leader, went out in round number 1. If Oswald should advance and win through the semifinals, he would move into the points lead for the $150,000 season-ending bonus payout.
And there's one of those great big 17-inch wide rear slick tires. But as the car goes down the racetrack and accumulates speed, that tire grows. At the finish line, you're only running on about half of that width.
Oswald with the lane choice in the near lane, and Johnny West goes up in smoke. Oswald through the traps and recording an elapsed time of 5.46 seconds. His speed 251 miles an hour. All of the cars that have advanced into the semifinals have been most consistent in the mid-540 range. As we look again, you see the problem started for Johnny West right off the starting line. The clutch maybe just a bit too tight, maybe too much horsepower, but whatever the problem, it occurred very quickly for Johnny West and put him out of competition and advanced Mark Oswald into the semifinals to run against Bruce Larson, who has the lane choice. The other pair finds 2 record holders, Mike Dunn for speed, Don Prudhomme for ET, the Snake having the choice of lanes. Let's go to Steve at the far end with Mark Oswald.
Well, with that win light, Mark Oswald picks up 200 more Winston points as he tries to gun down Kenny Bernstein, who went out round number 1. Nice race.
Thank you. We need to capitalize on every point we can. You know, Kenny had a little bit of misfortune, and we need to capitalize on it. That's what, you know, getting ahead's all about.
You know, 20 minutes ago, I told you your 546, which cost you lane choice, would have been bad news. It doesn't look like it now. That lane's coming around fine.
Yeah, you know, it is that run there, the car just never did get a grip on the racetrack down track. The motor's just freewheeling down there, so it's plenty loose, so it's going to be anybody's race.
Okay, Mark Oswald to the semis.
Mark now preparing himself for the race against Bruce Larson, while back on the starting line, a teammate of Larson's, Joe Amato, getting ready for his semifinal run in Top Fuel. Raceway Park, a complex built on some 500 acres just outside of Baytown, Texas, at a cost of some $6 million, was completed in 6 months construction time. Practically a record for a project of this size, and it has already become a record-holding racetrack.
Well, speaking of records, Joe Amato has an opportunity here, but I wonder if he'll take it. He could set both ends of the NHRA national record. That would be worth 400 Winston points, the equivalent of 2 rounds of racing. But you take the chance of smoking the tires.
Not only is he worried about setting the records, he's also got to be concerned with Connie Coletta, the competitor in the far lane of the track. Coletta showing thus far the best performances he has had in nearly 5 years. His 5.06 second qualifying time matches very favorably with the 5-second flat that has been turned by Joe Amato. Both drivers just a blink of an eye away from a 4-second elapsed time. Earlier, Steve brought us this Quaker State quick fact.
One of the most important racer services here at the Fram Supernationals or any NHRA national event is Team Torch, the official NHRA welder. Well, this is a great looking rig, isn't it? But more importantly, on board are all the different welding apparatuses needed. There's oxygen acetylene, but primarily that's just for heating or cutting of plate. The most important welding is being done right now by the fastest weld on wheels himself, Paul Lesage. One of Scott Coletta's funny car headers being repaired with Heliarc, a water-cooled tip, so that he can weld for hours and hours without having to stop. Also, for repairing trailers and things like that, there is electric arc on board. Also, all of the tubing that he may need at his trade to repair a roll bar or a wheelie bar or a wing strut. He can weld steel, aluminum, iron, just about anything, and he's got all of the saws necessary and benders to put it in whatever shape he wants. So you can bet whenever a racer stays up all night repairing a crash car, that man, Paul Lesage, will be right at his side.
Just one of the many people that contribute to the overall success of this spectacle of NHRA championship drag racing. Joe Amato, the points leader in the chase for the $150,000 season-ending payout in the near lane of the track. Connie Coletta, the veteran of more than 25 years of Top Fuel racing in the far lane.
Joe Amato, the U.S. national champion, a title that has long eluded Connie Coletta, even though he was one of the first drivers ever to top the 200-mile-per-hour mark. Amato near lane, Coletta far lane. For Coletta it's pride. For Amato it's points.
And Joe Amato just squeezes out a victory. This was the quickest side-by-side race in history. 5.07 second elapsed time for the winner, Joe Amato. A 5.09 second elapsed time for Connie Coletta. Coletta just a few hundredths of a second slower off the starting line. At the finish line, it was Joe Amato, and just look at the margin of victory. Oh, so slim. Let's go to the far end, and Steve Evans with the winner.
Joe Amato was just on the winning end of the quickest side-by-side race, I believe, in drag racing history. You're 5:07 to Connie's 5:09. What a war.
Well, it's tough out there. That's really good runs on that track out there. You know, we knew we were going to have to run good, and so Timmy put a little power to it and hoping it was enough, and it was. We were side-by-side all the way down the track.
You know, one more round like this, you could have a big enough points lead to go to the Bank of Old Forge and borrow money on that Winston $150,000 bonus.
Well, we'd like to win the Winston Championship, but it's not over yet. We don't want to count our chickens. We're real glad we're this far. Now we want to win this race, and then we'll worry about the championship next time.
I want to put you on the spot a little bit. It's cooling off. The track is good. The right lane is even good. What are the chances of a record in the final?
Well, I'd like to really run a 4 and get the speed record back up to 287. I mean, that'd really rip their hearts out, and what a way to win a race.
Indeed, that'd be a backbreaker. Joe Amato goes to the final round. Let's go back to the starting line.
Steve, Joe obviously enthused about the performance.
Part of Gene Snow's 4-second success is the overall drive ratio in the rear end of his top fuel dragster. It's a 310, the highest ever built for drag racing, and only Gene has that gear. I'll explain that later. Here's a typical rear end out of a dragster. You see the ring gear and the pinion gear. Now here's a set out of the rear end, and the ratio is determined by dividing the number of teeth on the ring gear into the pinion gear. This is a 320. Anybody can buy that. Gene Snow went to a gear manufacturer some months ago and wanted a 310 gear belt. He had to have 25 sets made before they'd do it. He invested a ton of money, which is why he is unwilling to share that gear ratio, and certainly nobody can blame him. It may be well into next year before any gear manufacturer can come up with a 310 for everybody else. So for that amount of time anyway, Gene Snow will enjoy that advantage.
Carter is a happy man. As we look again, keep your eyes on Gene Snow in the far lane. As he came off the starting line, the wheels instantly popped up in the air. And then one of the most unusual occurrences you will ever see, a wheel stand with the tires just blazing. Gene Snow has to lift. Eddie Hill goes on and takes away Gene Snow's record to advance into the finals with Joe Amato. Hill obviously has the choice of lanes. Let's go to Steve.
How many fingers do you see?
I see 4.
That's what it was. The quickest time ever, 4:99 with a 0. You now own the record.
I got the record?
You bet you do. Your 5:03 backs it up.
Oh, right. Well, Gene's was a little worse than it.
Trust me on that. You got the record.
Good Lord. I got, wow, fantastic.
I tell you, this Texas crowd has gone crazy.
I bet they went bananas. Hey, did Gene get in trouble? I saw him.
Yes, sir. He stood it right up on end. He's okay.
He's all right? Oh, great. Man, what a race. How'd they do on the start, do you know?
You did good all the way down the racetrack.
Oh,
you know, 24 hours ago, the depth of despair, now the record and going into the finals. Unbelievable.
Is this a roller coaster ride or what? I mean, just a few hours ago, it seemed like we were totally out of parts and all, and then so many people, all our competitors and everything, our sponsors stepped up with offers of credit, more money. The blower that we got was loaned to us by Whiting, which we bumped out of the program, and he didn't mind. I went over and told him, apologize. Okay. What a sport.
All right, indeed, what a sport. Ursi's down here. There's the record holder.
Meantime, back in the pit area, the work continuing on Don Prudhomme's Pontiac. His crew getting that race car ready to go against the Oldsmobile of Joe Fasano with his driver, Mike Dunn. Prudhomme holding the all-important choice of lane. The celebration continues in the far end of the racetrack. The new national record holder, Eddie Hill, into the finals of the Fram Supernationals.
This is happening in the funny car pit. The crew of Mark Oswald has unloaded the Thunderbird body that was used in qualifying and apparently is going to replace the new probe body with this particular piece of fiberglass. We'll try to get some more information on that, Dave McClellan.
While speculation continues in the pits on the racetrack, it is time for the semifinals of Pro Stock Eliminator. Frank Sanchez at the wheel of the Pontiac, racing against the new Ford Probe of Bob Glidden. Glidden selecting the lane nearest the camera, has low ET, and also the new national record at a 7:27.
Even though he has the record, he is still developing this car. The first time we have ever seen him bring race car scales to the track. They are still sorting out the chassis. How quick will it run when it's right? That's what worries the competition in pro stock.
And that's what's got to be on the mind of Frank Sanchez. In fact, so much so, he left the starting line too soon, disqualified himself, leaving the red light glowing on the Christmas tree, and Bob Glidden runs a 7.34 second elapsed time. A bit of an improvement over his second round time, and look at the speed, over 189 miles an hour. Tony Christian drives the Chevy Beretta out of the water box in a cloud of smoke. That's just a puddle of water down there, and it's designed to allow the tires to break loose very easily as they go through this burnout procedure. All cars in competition do the burnouts, and that is designed to heat up those race tires, get them as sticky as possible to give them the traction necessary to record these record-shattering elapsed times. Tony Christian, coming out of the sportsman category of racing, now has 2 championships to his credit at the wheel of a pro stocker. Let's go to Steve with Bob Glidden.
Oh, what a nice, stunning semifinal round victory, Bob. A 7:34. It's picking up.
That was a little better. We made a pretty nice run there, Steve. Right in front of us, Eddie Hill ran a 4.99, so we thought the track was a little better.
No one is better at keeping one of these cars straight than you are, and that's important.
Well, we've had lots of problems with this car here, trying to figure out the chassis, and we need one more nice run just like that one.
I hope you get it.
Thank you.
Tony Christian in the far lane of the racetrack has a difficult task ahead of him. He has got to race against the Oldsmobile of Warren Johnson, the number 2 qualified car, and consistently the quickest car of the rounds of elimination.
This race may very well be won by the driver that can leave first. Tony Christian over the season has had much better reaction times than Warren Johnson, but it's Johnson away.
Christian having to drive that Beretta back into the center of the lane while Warren Johnson pulls ahead and has even a quicker time than Bob Glidden, 7.33 seconds. His speed also 189 miles an hour, indicating he has lots of horsepower on tap at the wheel of that Oldsmobile. As we look again, you can see the starting line advantage built up by Warren Johnson. When you couple that with the power advantage he had over Tony Christian, it made for a margin of victory of more than a car length as they crossed the finish line a quarter of a mile away from the start. Johnson and his Oldsmobile will be against Bob Glidden and the new Ford Probe in the finals of Pro Stock. Warren Johnson has the lane choice. More racing from the Fram Supernationals in just a moment. Now we'll move along with Steve Evans, and we're looking in on the Glidden family as they prepare that Ford Probe for the final round Pro Stock race against Warren Johnson. On the starting line, this is the Thunderbird-bodied car of Candies and Hughes. They pulled a switch, and moments ago, Steve Evans had a chance to talk to the crew chief on this car, Leonard Hughes, about the reasons for changing from the Ford Probe body to the Ford Thunderbird body.
David, I'm with Leonard Hughes. Leonard, we saw the crew unloading the Thunderbird body. Is it going on the car?
This round, yes.
Why the change?
Well, we're having trouble spinning the tires in high gear. Evidently, we don't have enough down pressure, and we don't have time to work it out right now. So we're going to go back to what we know and go with that from now.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
David, a sidebar to that story. With these new lockup clutches, they're putting more horsepower to the rear tires the last 300 or 400 feet than they ever have before, which is causing the tire literally to leave black tracks all the way from the starting line to the finish line. Sometime back, the clutch would slip down there. It no longer does, so downforce critical.
Racing against Oswald is Bruce Larson. Larson in the far lane, Oswald in the near lane. And a great start for Mark Oswald. But from behind comes Bruce Larson in one of the closest funny car races of the day. 5.40, 264 miles an hour, his winning time. As we look again, you can see the advantage that Mark Oswald, about 0.02 of a second, gained at the start. Then the car of Bruce Larson just pulled even and pulled ahead. And at that point, he held on to the lead. And as they crossed the finish line, just a few feet separated these two cars. Bruce Larson, the winner.
Talk about your come-from-behind charges. You were looking at the rear of that Thunderbird.
I was, and then we just crept up a little, and I didn't think I could pass him, and all of a sudden the car charged real hard.
540.
Great. That's right in the ball game for the next round.
Indeed, and in the right lane, there's nothing wrong with that strip of asphalt now.
I like it. It's great.
And we like watching it. Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Boy, this man's a fighter, isn't he?
Steve, he's a fighter, and he delivered a knockout punch to that lane furthest from the camera. It had been suspect earlier, but a 5.40 dispels any questions about the traction available to Mike Dunn at the wheel of Joe Pisano's Oldsmobile.
And this is a situation really where I believe both drivers have the lane they want. Don Perdoma's opponent had the lane choice, has taken the near lane, as so many have. But Mike Dunn told me he is very comfortable over there now. Maybe not a couple of hours ago, but now he is.
Prudhomme in the Skoal Bandit Pontiac, getting a final check by his crew, and now begins to pull into those staging beams as starter Buster Count intently watches both drivers and both vehicles to make sure they're safe for the run.
And Buster has tremendous responsibility up there, David. He has to make sure that one driver doesn't take an inordinate amount of time. In racers' parlance, they call it a burn down. You can actually force your competitor to get more heat in his motor and make more power than he really wants to. But none of that going on here. Two totally professional drag racers.
Mike Dunn against Don Prudhomme. We're in the semifinals of Funny Car at the Fram Supernationals.
And Dunn has strapped one on Prudhomme.
And Prudhomme went up in smoke. Dunn across the finish line with an elapsed time of 5.37 seconds. His speed 272 miles an hour. Even better than the time recorded by Bruce Larson in that far lane. This race is one that may well have been decided the moment the green light flashed on. Look at Mike Dunn in the far lane. He got nearly 0.05 of a second advantage over Prudhomme, who instantly went up in smoke, and Dunn went for the win with a 0.03 of a second advantage in elapsed times over his competitor, Bruce Larson. Mike Dunn has the lane choice in the final round of Funny Car. Now let's go to Steve with Mike Dunn.
Well, the Joe Pisano crew dug deep for you, Mike. Done a 5:37. Had the snake not smoked the tires, you'd have given him a fight all the way.
Yeah, I think we would have given him a good race. I'll tell you one thing. You can say all you want, you know, hats off to Dale Armstrong. They're probably the top of the breed. But I'll tell you, Joe Pisano and Gary Slusher, I mean, I'll put them up against any of them any day. You know, that we just run on a part-time deal. And for us to come out and compete with these guys head-to-head, it's just a tribute to our crew.
In case you haven't had time to watch the scoreboard, you have lane choice.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Oh, should be a great final. Bruce Larson and Mike Dunn.
Dunn looking ahead to that race. Here comes the crew backing into position to take that Oldsmobile back into the pits for the between-round preparation. Car owner Joe Pisano coming over and offering one of those famed Granatelli congratulations. In the Eddie Hill pit area, the pace of preparation is precise. No frantic activity here. They're just getting that car ready for the final race against Joe Amato. Coming up a little bit later at the Fram Supernationals.
Weather gathering, the lights are on here at Houston Raceway Park. I'm Steve Evans along with Dave McClellan, and we are in the final throes of the Fram Supernationals. Just 3 pairs of cars left, Dave.
Steve, in the Pro Stock final, it is Ford versus Oldsmobile. Bob Glidden is in the far lane of the racetrack, not by his choice. Warren Johnson had the quicker elapsed time in the semifinals. He brought his Oldsmobile into the near lane.
16 cars qualified, and as it should be, but often isn't, the 2 quickest cars come down to the final round. And there's an intermake battle as well between the Oldsmobile and the Ford Probe. Who would have ever thought that the Probe would debut with this kind of success?
While Glidden has got the quickest elapsed time of the meet at a 7:27, Warren Johnson has consistently been quicker on race day. Throughout the 4 rounds of eliminations coming to this point, the 4th round, Johnson has had the quicker elapsed times. He had it in the semifinals and took the lane nearest the camera. Glidden, of course, as he told you earlier, Steve, is still sorting out this brand new race car. He thinks there is yet room for improvement.
And another leveler, the reaction times over the day have been almost identical, so neither shows any weakness there.
Under the bright lights of Houston Raceway Park, all eyes of this massive crowd are directed to the starting line for the finals in Pro Stock Eliminator. The drivers getting themselves set, bringing the RPM on these 500 cubic inch engines to their peak, and Glidden's away first. Oh, so close, but million payoff. Listen to the times. Bob Glidden ran 7:33. Warren Johnson went 7:31. Remember, as I told you earlier, each lane is timed separately and the clocks do not start until the car leaves the starting line. Bob Glidden left the starting line 0.05 of a second quicker than did Warren Johnson. That means at the finish line, by some 0.03 of a second, Bob Glidden was the winner of the Fram Supernationals, and that was the margin of victory.
What a debut of a brand new race car. But Bob Glidden, you as a driver won this one. Your reaction time, 7:33 yours, 7:31 Warren's.
I knew it was going to be a close race, Steve, and you know, give Warren a second here to get by. He's been a little early, and he's been a little late. I told the boys I figured he'd be right on time. We thought it would be a really good race, and you know, the car come a long way at this race. We've had problems, and it made a nice run in the final.
The only thing it lacked was a little bit of consistency.
That's right, and the last couple 3 runs has been consistent.
Bob Glidden wins another one. Great job.
The picture of consistency as far as gaining the winner's circle. Bob Glidden has done it 66 times, and now a 9th Winston Championship. There's the point standings after the Supernationals. Warren Johnson in 2nd, Tony Christian in 3rd with 2 races yet to go. Bruce Larson, after a quick word with Mike Dunn, heads to his Oldsmobile Funny Car. We'll be back with the Funny Car Finals at the Fram Supernationals in just a moment. Houston Raceway Park, just outside of Baytown, Texas, as a massive thunderstorm looms on the horizon, but we have only 2 races to complete this Fram Supernationals. Mike Dunn brings Joe Pisano's Funny Car up to the water box, while in the background you see the body coming down on Bruce Larson's Oldsmobile. Mike Dunn, the national speed record holder, has not been close to the 280-mile-an-hour mark today, but more importantly, he has been most consistent in his elapsed time, in the low 540s. In fact, he ran a 5:37 in the semifinals to earn the lane choice over Bruce Larson. The owner of Mike Dunn's Funny Car, Joe Pisano, is a man that has seen all aspects of this sport, from racer car owner to manufacturer.
When the first drag race was held, I don't mean NHRA event, I mean just a bunch of kids getting together somewhere, probably in California. I think, Joe Pisano, you might have been there.
Yeah, it was Santa Ana.
You're serious? You were there?
I was there. I was there on opening day. Ran the dry lakes, and towed my car, went and raced for old Pappy.
C.J. Pappy Hart, a legend in his own right. You do this for the fun of it. You do it because you love it.
I do it for the fun, and I love it. And it's good for my business.
Indeed. And what about that young man behind the steering wheel? He's pretty special to you, too, not just as a driver.
Yeah, I've known him for a long time. I've known him probably since he was about 5 years old. And I told him as soon as he got good, he could drive my car.
Well, he certainly did that, and he's won the U.S. Nationals for you, not to mention maybe today.
I hope so. He does, too, so he can make his house payments.
Good luck.
Thank you much.
Joe Pisano with a rather droll sense of humor as he heads into the finals, where his driver, Mike Dunn, goes against Bruce Larson.
You know, David, here we've got a similar circumstance as we did in the Pro Stock Final. You've got a rate of just about equal on elapsed time, on reaction time. This is a pick-em car race.
Steve, if there is a difference between these 2 drivers, it is the experience that Bruce Larson has gained over 20 years in competition. Mike Dunn is a 2nd-generation driver. He is the son of a champion driver himself, Jim Dunn. Both cars into the staging beams, and a great start. Mike Dunn wins the Fram Supernationals as Bruce Larson, for some unknown reason, slowed right off the starting line. A great reaction time for both drivers. As you can see, if we look again in replay, it was almost identical starts. But Larson fell back. Right at that point, Mike Dunn pulled ahead and stayed ahead. He had to drive this race car as it used up a good bit of the lane, but he got it back in the center as he crossed the finish line. Mike Dunn, the Funny Car champion.
What a pleasure it is to welcome into the winner's circle of the inaugural Fram Supernationals a young man who's seen the top of the sport and the bottom. Congratulations. Magnificent. 540.
Oh, thanks, Steve. I just got to give credit to the crew. I mean, we didn't want to get too greedy. We felt that, we went back and repeated that we had a good shot at, and that's what we did, and the crew did a great job. I can't say enough for the JP1 Oldsmobile. We had a little trouble first round, broke a transmission, and, went flawless the rest of the day.
I asked car owner Joe P. if he had a lot of desire to win this, and he said, yep, he's got house payments to make.
Well, that's right. I got my little girl. She isn't here today, Samantha. She had to start kindergarten this week, so my wife and little girl couldn't be here. But, I mean, this is what it's all for them. I mean, this is what it's all about. This is great. Just makes it that much better. Joe Paisano, Gary Slusher, Frank Paisano, Jim Rickard, the rest of the crew. I can't say enough. This is great.
You don't have any sponsors to thank. We don't have to worry about that.
JP1 Oldsmobile and Valvoline. That's it.
Mike Dunn. Great driver. Great guy.
And our congratulations to Mike Dunn for his sterling victory here at the Fram Supernationals. And what a race we have for the Winston Funny Car Crown. Kenny Bernstein leading Mark Oswald by less than 100 points. 2 races yet to go. We have 1 race remaining here at Houston Raceway Park. As the storm clouds get closer, our finalists in Top Fuel are getting ready.
This partisan Texas crowd here at Houston Raceway Park tonight. You might just find that the man in the yellow car, Eddie Hill, ranked right up there with Sam Houston as one of their all-time heroes.
The story for such a race.
All 8 pistons have come out of Joe Amato's motor. There's nothing wrong with them. They'll race again. But that is the way Tim Richards and crew operates. Leave nothing to chance. 8 new pistons, probably new bearings. They'll check everything from the camshaft to the clutch to the rear end. No longer is there a transmission to have to worry about. Now, over in Eddie Hill's pits, a totally different attitude. Their motto is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. All they're going to do is take the oil pan off. Fuzzy Carter under the car will check all of the bearings. The bearings give him indicators whether he should take the heads off or not. They really feel they're better to leave the motor together and maybe not make a mistake that could be costly on the starting line with a leak.
After the crowd is cheering the Texan, Eddie Hill, who has just established the quickest elapsed time in the history of drag racing. As we look again, Amato had a very slight advantage at the start, but instantly the clutch locked up, the tires started smoking, and Eddie Hill was streaking across the finish line to a 4.93-second elapsed time. His speed over 283 miles an hour. Fuzzy Carter, Janet Carter, Ursi Hill, the entire crew. Listen to the cheers in the background. They go down to pick up the Fram Supernationals champion and the quickest man in drag racing, Eddie Hill.
They may have to rebuild the grandstands at the brand new Houston Raceway Park. The Texans fans are tearing them down. 493.
93?
Got it.
Good Lord. But I outran myself. That's not a record, is it? It's too quick for a record.
Oh, but hey, it's a record in our hearts, let me tell you.
93.
We are a mile away. You can still hear the crowd.
Hear him down here.
Ursi has got them whipped into a frenzy.
I bet she does. They, Fuzzy and them are working till 3 or 4 o'clock every night this week trying to get this deal sorted out.
Yesterday, you went to the press room and you said, I want it released that Eddie Hill is going home. It was impossible we could be talking like this.
Well, I didn't really say that exactly. I said it looks like at this point we're going to have to. I didn't want to do that. So that was stretched a little bit, but I thought it was true at the time.
Magnificent.
Oh,
I'll shake that hand.
Such a deal. Man.
Joe Amato. You heard the time, Joe?
490. I was pulling down the track slow, and I saw the 93 on the board. Tough to beat. Spectacular run. Spectacular.
All right. Wow. What a 24 hours it has been for this man, his crew, and for all of us watching these exploits. And here, we can hear the horn honking. I think Ursi took a little time up there to get the crowd a little more whipped up than they already were.
An incredible climax to this inaugural Fram Supernationals. The runner-up finish by Joe Amato in the TRW Special advances his lead by just a couple of 100 points more over Darrell Gwynn in the search for the Winston Top Fuel Championship. For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from Houston Raceway Park. The 1988 NHRA Fram Supernationals has been brought to you by Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference. And by Fram Bendix Autolite, which are all quality products of Allied Automotive. And by Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps engines cleaner to last longer. The NHRA Supernationals has been a presentation of Diamond P Sports.